The MG-42 is firing at 600 rounds per minute. You don't hear individual shots, you hear a single sustained scream, like linen tearing in the hands of God. Corporal James Alderman has heard that sound for 6 hours. It lives behind his eyes now. It has a color. It is white. He is pressed into a rubble pile that used to be the western wall of the Pantano farmhouse, Anzio Beachhead, Italy. The date is May 23, 1944. The time is 14:47. His section to load 12 men on is gone. Not gone as in retreated. Gone. 7 are dead in the irrigation ditch 80 meters behind him. 3 more pulled back under the new orders that came screaming through the radio 40 minutes ago. The other 2 he stopped counting on after the first ambush. He is alone. His rifle is a Springfield M1903A4, a bolt-action design that was already 41 years old when this war started. In the Germans now pointing an MG-42 at every piece of cover he occupies are armed with a weapon that fires at a rate his rifle cannot approach in a lifetime of trigger pulls. On paper, what Corporal Alderman is attempting is not a tactical situation. It is a geometry problem, and the geometry is wrong. But here is what the paper does not know. He has 4 rounds left. The German position is 40 meters away. And between him and that position are 2 things. A fortified farmhouse window from which the MG-42 has already cut down everything that tried to cross the open ground today, and somewhere inside that farmhouse in a root cellar beneath the kitchen floor, there is a family. An Italian farmer, his wife, a girl of perhaps 9, a boy younger than that. They were not supposed to be there. The intelligence said this position was abandoned by civilians 3 weeks ago, and the intelligence was wrong about a great many things today. Alderman presses the Springfield flat against his chest. His left hand has stopped bleeding. It has bled so long it has run out of things to bleed with. He can still work the bolt. He has checked this 4 times in the last 8 minutes. 4 rounds remain. He was told to go back. The orders came clearly. Abort, withdraw, return to the main line. His section pulled out. The road to Cisterna is still closed, and the family in that cellar is still there. What Corporal James Alderman does in the next 40 minutes will baffle the first American soldiers who arrive at that farmhouse. They will count the German casualties. They will find the MG-42 position destroyed. They will find the family alive. They will find 1 soldier's brass. And they will not be able to explain it. James Roy Alderman was born in Harlan County, Kentucky in 1922. Coal country, not the romantic kind, but the kind that stains fingernails permanently before a boy is 12 and teaches him that patience is not a virtue. It is a survival skill. His father worked the Black Mountain mine. James was the first alderman in 3 generations not expected to go underground. He was a quiet boy who spoke precisely and rarely. His 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Cornett, wrote in his report card, "James is still to a degree that is almost unusual in a child. He notices everything." His father taught him to shoot on a .22 rimfire at age 8. By 14, he was taking deer at 200 yards with open sights, judging wind by the way grass moved, counting his breath between heartbeats. In Harlan County in the 1930s, that was not a hobby. That was how a family ate through winter. He enlisted in October 1942, 3 days after his 20th birthday, walked into the recruitment office in Harlan and said he could shoot and move quietly, and was willing to go where they needed someone who could do both. The Army agreed. He was assigned to the 7th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division, the Cotton Balers. His marksmanship scores at Camp Pickett placed him in the top 2% of his cohort. He was issued an M1903A4 Springfield sniper rifle, fitted with a 2.5 power Weaver telescopic sight. His platoon called him Cricket because he moved through terrain the way a cricket moves through tall grass, soundless, unhurried, and suddenly somewhere you did not expect. The one thing he carried that was not issued was a photograph. His sister Eleanor, 12 years old, standing in front of Harlan County High School on the first day of 7th grade. She had pressed it into his shirt pocket at the train station the morning he shipped out. "You're coming back for my graduation," she told him. Not a wish, a statement of fact. He folded it small and kept it in his left breast pocket under the flap against his sternum. Through Tunisia, through Sicily, through the winter at the Gustav line, it was still there. Through Tunisia, through Sicily, through the winter at the Gustav line, he had checked for it the way other men checked their dog tags. The man who left Harlan County and the soldier now wedged into rubble 40 meters from a German machine gun nest are the same person. The same stillness, the same patience, the same certainty that everything comes down to breath, angle, and the moment between heartbeats. He just never imagined the target would be this close, or the cost this high. And the briefing for Operation Buffalo was held at 0300 hours on May 23, 1944, in a dugout command post 3 kilometers south of Cisterna di Latina. After 4 months of grinding stalemate on the Anzio beachhead, 40,000 Allied casualties and almost no territorial gain, General Mark Clark's Fifth Army was breaking out. The 3rd Infantry Division would drive northeast, cut Highway 7, and strangle the German supply lines. To move fast, they needed roads. To use roads, they needed to silence the strong points that covered them. One was the Pantano farm complex, a reinforced stone farmhouse on a slight rise 3 kilometers west of Cisterna. From that rise, a machine gun with clear sight lines could stop a column cold. The task went to B Company, 7th Infantry. 12 men, a reinforced assault section under Sergeant First Class Dale Pruitt, would approach from the southwest, suppress the position, and clear the MG nest so the main advance could proceed. And the intelligence was specific. A reconnaissance patrol 2 nights prior had observed the farmhouse. 8 to 12 German defenders, lightly entrenched. 1 machine gun at the eastern window. The southwestern approach through the irrigation ditches was assessed as clear. The civilian population had evacuated 3 weeks earlier. The section moved out at 0530, 12 men, Alderman carrying his Springfield and his M1911 pistol. The plan was clean. Suppress the eastern window from 100 meters. 1 team circles right, reaches the building, clears it. Standard. At 0548, 250 meters from the objective, the Pantano farmhouse opened fire with not 1 but 3 MG-42 positions. The intelligence had not accounted for a German engineering detachment that arrived at 2100 the previous evening and spent the night reinforcing. What had been a squad-strength observation post with a single crew-served weapon was now a platoon-strength strongpoint. Roughly 35 Wehrmacht soldiers of the 715th Infantry Division. 3 MG-42s in interlocking fields of fire, and a Panzerschreck team positioned in the ruins of the collapsed barn to the north. 2 men died in the first 4 seconds. Sergeant Pruitt took rounds through his right arm and shoulder, and the BAR gunner suppressed the eastern window long enough for 3 men to drag Pruitt back. Alderman found cover and located the gun positions through his scope. 3 nests. The angles were bad for every approach they had planned. Then the radio crackled. Captain Harold Voss, company commander. Bravo section, abort the assault. Repeat, abort and withdraw. We're pushing around the north. Get your people back to the main line. Move now. It was a sound tactical decision. Sergeant Pruitt, he bleeding badly, heard the order and made the call without hesitation. Cricket, we're pulling out. All of us, move. But Alderman had spent 4 minutes crawling 60 meters forward through the irrigation trench while the rest of the section took fire. He was inside the compound's effective cover. The space between him and his retreating section was open ground that the eastern MG-42 could reach in under a second. He keyed his radio. Pruitt, I can't come back across that ground. Here they've got the whole approach zeroed. Pruitt, his voice compressed by pain and static. Then find cover and wait. We'll get artillery on it. The artillery never came. The breakout consumed every available asset within the hour. Communications went to static. The main advance moved around the Pantano position and left Corporal James Alderman inside it. His inventory: 4 rounds for the Springfield, 11 for the M1911, no water, no rations, a laceration on his left hand from the masonry, even 35 German soldiers 40 meters ahead. What the intelligence had also failed to tell him, what he would not discover for another 20 minutes, was that the Pantano family had not evacuated. They were still in the cellar. He gives himself 10 minutes to breathe and think. He lays flat in rubble and watches the farmhouse through his scope. The eastern window, MG-42, 2-man crew, occasional third man with ammunition. The roof line, clear, no defenders, which means they feel secure inside. The courtyard empty, not wasting soldiers on positions they don't need. That is professionalism. He respects it. He also notes that professionalism makes soldiers predictable. The southwestern approach runs through a shallow irrigation ditch overgrown with dry grass. Angling from his position to within 20 meters of the farmhouse's west wall. If unobserved, he can reach it in under 3 minutes of careful crawling. He moves at 0712, flat on his belly, his Springfield cradled in his arms, elbows and knees, swimming through earth. The grass crackles faintly if he moves too fast. He does not move too fast. He is 60 meters into the approach, 10 meters from the west wall, when he hears the sound behind him. Not a shot. A boot scrape on loose stone. The ambush explodes from the collapsed barn to his left, a position he had seen, assessed as destroyed, dismissed. 3 German soldiers of the 715th, in an Schutzteam position not to defend the farmhouse, but specifically to kill anyone who found the irrigation ditch. Someone on the German side had anticipated the approach. They had planned for exactly this. The first burst from the Sturmgewehr goes 2 feet over his head because he has already dropped flat. Not a decision. A reflex. His body moved before his mind caught up. The second burst tears through the grass 3 feet to his right. The third man is moving to his left, trying to close the distance. He has 3 seconds, maybe 4, before they walk their fire onto him. What he does next is not in any manual. He rolls left, toward the closest shooter, not away from him, covering 6 feet in one movement and coming up behind a single large stone at the edge of the ditch. The closest German is now 7 feet away, momentarily confused by the movement in the wrong direction. Alderman fires the M1911 once at 2 meters distance, and the second German is still swinging his weapon. Alderman fires again. The third man furthest back fires, and the round catches Alderman across the outside of his left thigh. A graze that opens skin but misses bone and artery by 3 centimeters. He chambers around on the third German and does not fire. He holds him at gunpoint for 4 seconds. The young German, 19 at most, Alderman will think later, eyes going wide, sees what is in Alderman's face and makes the only decision available to him. He sets his weapon down on the stone. Alderman ties the German's hands with his own bootlace, leaves him in the ditch, and keeps moving. His left leg burns with each movement. He does not count the burning. He adds the 3 rounds expended from the M1911 to his mental ledger and keeps his eyes on the west wall, now 15 meters away. What he did in the next 90 seconds made no tactical sense, and until you understand what he had already seen through his scope that no one else on that battlefield could have noticed from that angle. He reaches the west wall of the farmhouse and presses his back against stone. From inside, he can hear the MG-42 crew working the eastern window. Methodical, controlled bursts covering the approaches. They do not know he is here. The 3-man Schütze team was their flank security, and that flank is now silent. Yet he has perhaps 5 minutes before someone notices. The farmhouse compound has a stone gate on the west side, one door hanging open on a broken hinge. Through the gap, he can see 20 feet of courtyard and the back of a German soldier standing near an ammunition stack, smoking, looking east. He does not use the M1911. The shot would echo and give up his position. He slides through the gate in 4 seconds. He crosses to the shadow of the ammunition stack while the German exhales a long stream of smoke toward the main battle. He moves past the man at a distance of 4 feet without a sound. Cricket. The platoon had understood the nickname better than he had. The kitchen entrance is 12 meters across open courtyard from the ammunition stack. Between him and the door is a stone water trough, dry, 4 feet long, no cover behind it. The MG crew in the eastern window has a clear sight line to the kitchen door. He is calculating angles. Then he sees something through the kitchen window. Movement. Below the window, at floor level. A small pale hand pressed against the glass for 1 second. Then gone. The family. The intelligence said they evacuated. The intelligence was wrong about everything today. He freezes. His plan had relied on moving through the kitchen fast, directly to the eastern room where the MG crew operated. But fast movement through a kitchen with civilians on the floor, that is not a plan anymore. That is a way to kill the people he is trying to protect. He thinks for 2 seconds that feel like 20. Then he makes the decision that will confuse every American soldier who later tries to reconstruct his movements. He steps out from the shadow, walks 4 deliberate steps to the water trough, and fires 1 round from the Springfield directly into the empty stone. The sound is enormous, and the German by the ammunition stack spins. The MG crew rotates at the eastern window. Everyone looks west. Alderman is flat behind the trough before the echo dies. 3 rounds left. He just used 1 on empty stone. The kitchen door opens. A German NCO leans out, scanning west toward the gate. Everyone is looking at the wrong side of the courtyard, and under the kitchen floor, in the root cellar, an Italian farmer clamps his hand over his wife's mouth and pulls his 2 children flat against the earthen wall. Because a shot inside the courtyard means one thing. Someone is coming who is not German. 15 seconds of confusion. Maybe 20. He moves for the kitchen door. Inside, 1 German is still scanning west. Alderman comes in behind him, reverses the Springfield, strikes once. The man goes down quietly. He retrieves the Walther P38, adds it to his inventory. He knocks twice on the cellar trap door. Quiet, deliberate. Waits. Two knocks come back from below. They are alive. They know someone is here. He moves to the narrow hallway between kitchen and main room and puts himself between the cellar and the gun. His leg is leaving blood on the stone floor. He does not look at it. He has 3 rounds. He holds the hallway for 11 minutes. He counts seconds in groups of 60. A sniper's habit where patience is measured. His leg has stiffened, and his left hand, pressed against the rifle stock, reopens the cut each time he shifts. He is running out of what the body stores for moments like this. In the main room, 2 German voices, the sound of an MG-42 belt being changed. The metallic precision of professionals who know something is wrong, but not what or where. Behind him, through the kitchen floor, 2 quiet knocks, periodic, like a heartbeat. We are still here. Are you still there? He knocks back once without turning, and he thinks about Sergeant Pruitt, about the BAR gunner who suppressed that eastern window so 3 men could drag a wounded sergeant to safety. He thinks about Corporal Hayes and Private Eshelman, dead in the ditch 80 meters behind him, the war still happening around their bodies. He cannot carry them. He can do nothing about them. His hands have stopped shaking. This is not good. When the hands stop, it means the body has moved past fear into something quieter and more dangerous, where decisions stop feeling like decisions and start feeling like the only possible actions in a narrowing universe. He thinks about the orders, abort and withdraw. Captain Voss made the right call. Every man in his chain of command made the right call today. He should be at the main line giving his report. He thinks this clearly and completely, and then he reaches into his left breast pocket and pulls out the photograph. Eleanor, age 12, in front of Harlan County High School. A girl who said you're coming back the way she said every true thing, not as a wish but as a statement of fact, as if the universe was obligated to accommodate it. He stares at her face for 7 seconds. Then he folds the photograph and puts it back. She will graduate. I will be there, not a bargain, not a prayer. Simpler than either. The decision, he made plainly, that the algebra of this hallway, 3 rounds, 2 Germans, 4 civilians under the floor, 1 objective, has a solution. He just has to find it. He looks at the angle of light through the main room doorway. He thinks about where the MG-42 gunner's head will be relative to the window. He thinks about the water trough in the courtyard and the direction every German looked when his rifle fired. He thinks about angles. And then, quietly, he begins to understand something. He moves at 1,347. First, back to the kitchen. He lifts the trapdoor 6 inches and looks down. In the dark below, a man's face, 50, weathered, terrified, alive. Alderman speaks in the 4 words of Italian he knows. Aspettate, poi uscite. Wait, then come out. He points west, toward the courtyard gate. The man nods. He understands enough. Alderman sets the trapdoor back down, crosses to the kitchen window. Looks at the courtyard gate 15 meters across open ground. He then looks at the wall between the kitchen and the main room. This is where the puzzle resolves. When he fired into the water trough, every German turned west. Toward the gate, toward the noise. He had spent 10 minutes before his crawl watching those soldiers through his scope, watching how they oriented toward threat direction. The MG-42 crew had been in this position for days. They had patterns, and the critical pattern was this. When a new sound fires from the west, here the gunner rotates the MG-42 to cover it, which means for approximately 15 seconds the barrel swings away from the eastern killing zone. He had filed it away. He had not known how he would use it. He went west, through the kitchen door, while their attention followed his shot. He pulls the Walther P.38, 3 rounds in the Springfield, 8 in the M1911, 7 in the Walther. He steps into the hallway. He fires the Walther twice through the wall, not aimed, but placed to the right of the door frame at chest height, to force the non-gunner down and left. Then he moves into the doorway. The gunner has rotated, not west, but toward the hallway, toward the shots in the wall. He is bringing the MG-42 around on its mount, and it is a big weapon, heavy. It takes 2 full seconds to traverse, and Alderman is already inside the room. He fires the Springfield once at 4 meters. The gun goes silent, and the second German of the ammunition handler is behind the gun mount. And he fires his carabiner once, and the round takes Alderman across his right upper arm and spins him left and down behind the stone window ledge. And for 2 full seconds there is nothing but white light, and the smell of his own blood and the sound of his heart. Eleanor. He fires the M1911 3 times around the corner of the window ledge from the ground, not aiming, counting on the geometry of the room, and one of the 3 finds its mark. Then there is silence, actual silence. The MG-42 is still. The room is still. Outside, through the window, he can hear the distant thunder of the main breakout, artillery, armor, the enormous sound of an army in motion. But in this room, in this farmhouse, the gun has stopped. He lies on the floor for 17 seconds and breathes. Then he gets up, unsteady on his leg, and goes back to the kitchen and lifts the trap door. He and the farmer and his wife and his daughter and his son climb up, blinking into the light. He points them west, toward the gate, toward the road that leads away from this farm. The man grips his arm, the unwounded one, and says something in Italian that Alderman cannot translate, but the man's face says it. They move. They clear the gate. They move west past the first olive trees, and the distance takes them. 1 American soldier, 1 German position, taken. And he sets his back against the west wall and slides down to sitting in the dirt. And for the first time in 6 hours, he is completely still. The afternoon light comes sideways through the olive trees, gold and long, and for a moment it looks like the light over Black Mountain. The first American soldiers to reach the Pantano farm were a patrol from A Company, 7th Infantry, pushing along the road toward Cisterna at 16:20 hours. They were not expecting to find anything there, and the farm had been written off as a strong point requiring dedicated fire support before any approach. Inside the compound, 11 German soldiers of the 715th Infantry Division who would not be reporting to their commander. 3 MG-42 positions, destroyed or abandoned. The primary eastern nest that had dominated the approach road since before the breakout began. Cleared. Spent casings from an M1911, a Walther P.38, and a Springfield M1903A4 lay in a pattern across the kitchen and main room floors that told a story the patrol could follow step by step without anyone explaining it. In the courtyard, leaning against the west wall with his Springfield across his knees, was Corporal James Alderman, conscious pale from blood loss, with a graze to the left thigh and a through and through to the right upper arm. Neither wound had hit bone, and he had tied off the arm wound with his boot lace, the same lace he had used to secure the young German soldier still waiting in the irrigation ditch. The patrol's sergeant, a 15-year Army man named Hadley, later wrote in a letter home, "We were looking at a fortified platoon position that stopped our assault that morning. 1 man had walked in and shut it down. I have been in this army long enough to know when I am looking at something I do not fully understand. The German prisoner, 19 years old from Regensburg, gave a statement to intelligence officers 2 days later. He said the American had survived the ambush by moving toward the fire instead of away from it. Something he had never seen and did not believe was a trained tactic. When asked to describe Alderman, he thought for a moment, then said, "Very still. Even when he was moving, he was still." When a company reached the road north of the farm at 1700, the approach to Cisterna that the Pantano position had been blocking was open. The column moved without obstruction, and on a dirt road 2 kilometers west, an Italian farmer named Aldo Manzetti was walking with his wife and 2 children toward the American lines. He told the military police who stopped him that a single American soldier had come into the farmhouse, fought a room full of Germans, and sent his family out through the courtyard gate while wounded. He was asked if he wanted to make a formal statement. He said he did. He knocked on the floor first, to tell us someone was there, not a German, someone else. He knocked twice, and it was the most important sound I have ever heard in my life. Corporal James R. Alderman was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for his actions at the Pantano farm on May 23, 1944. The citation reads in part, "Corporal Alderman, he having become separated from his unit and receiving orders to withdraw, determined that withdrawal was not possible without exposing himself to certain destruction from enemy fire. On his own initiative, he continued the assault on the enemy strongpoint, neutralized 3 crew-served weapons and 11 enemy personnel, and secured the release of 4 Italian civilians held under duress within the objective, and his actions directly enabled the resumption of the column's advance and demonstrated extraordinary valor in the face of overwhelming opposition." He came home to Harlan County in autumn 1945, his right arm in a sling. He walked off the bus at the Harlan Depot on a Tuesday morning, and his sister, Eleanor, now 15, 2 years from the graduation he had promised her, was standing on the platform. She did not ask him about the war. He did not tell her. Not then. He attended her graduation in June 1947, stood in the back of the gymnasium, and watched her walk across the stage. People around him said something must have gotten in his eyes. When a reporter from the Harlan Daily Enterprise asked whether he considered himself a hero, he thought for a moment with the stillness that had always characterized him, then said, "There were 4 people in that cellar. I just needed them to still be there when it was over." He never spoke publicly about the Manzetti family. Aldo Manzetti wrote him a letter in 1952. Alderman wrote back. They corresponded for 20 years. Operation Buffalo broke the Anzio stalemate and opened the road to Rome. The 3rd Infantry Division entered Rome on June 5, 1944, 1 day before Normandy. One man's actions on one morning do not win campaigns. But roads do not open themselves, and some positions are held by things the map cannot show. He was given intelligence that was wrong from the first word. His orders changed at the worst possible moment. He faced an ambush designed specifically to kill him. In the one place he thought he was safe, he found civilians where there were supposed to be none, and chose, deliberately at cost to himself, to change everything, to take longer, to take more wounds because the other choice was one he could not live with, and he took the position. Alone, with 3 rounds of Springfield ammunition, borrowed weapons, and patience. If you are a veteran watching this, you already know what this feels like. You know the moment when command fails you, and you are the only one left with the objective still standing in front of you. The real weight, not the version that goes in citations, but the one you carry in your chest on quiet nights. Knowing you did what you came to do. Knowing it costs things you cannot get back. You knowing you would do it again. These two facts live in you simultaneously, without contradiction. For those watching who have never been in that place, James Alderman was not extraordinary because he was fearless. He was extraordinary because he was afraid. Afraid in the total biological way you are afraid when the math says you should die. And he took 2 seconds to look at a photograph of a girl in front of a school in Harlan County, Kentucky, and made a decision. Not the decision to be brave, the decision to solve the problem in front of him. He kept his promise to Eleanor. He was there in June 1947, standing in the back of that gymnasium, pressing his fingers to his eyes. Whatever name the Army puts on it, whatever ribbon, whatever citation, the real thing cannot be named. It is the knock on a cellar floor in the middle of a firefight. 2 quiet knocks to tell 4 people, I am here, I am between you and them. Wait, that is what one soldier, die with America's oldest rifle against Germany's most lethal machine gun, accomplished on a Tuesday morning in Italy in the spring of 1944. His name was Cricket. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe so you never miss these forgotten stories of extraordinary American courage. Who should we tell next? Drop their name in the comments.